Only God knows I love you. I don't even know you. Only God knows. I know you. And I love you. First, what's happening, folks? Your boy Fur Letter. And I'm happy to be bringing you the second installment of Everybody Got a Story. This is the program in which I help bring to light the extraordinary stories of some extraordinary people who ordinarily wouldn't have the opportunity to tell their story. But we're going to change that. I'm proud today to have my brother here with me. If y'all are down with me, y'all know this brother already from Put It On Some. You've seen me post pictures of him on my First Letter page and all that kind of stuff. But you don't know his story. And his story is amazing. And I can't wait for him to share it with y'all. So what's happening, man?
Man, glad to be here as always, man. I've been excited about this series of some of the many things that you do. But this one here, man, I really feel like it's got the potential to touch lives outside of what you and I normally do. We do it on an everyday basis, but in this case, man, being able to put something like this on wax, as we like to say, this is next level, man. So I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Well, man, we ain't gonna waste no time. Like I told the people, your story is amazing, and we're gonna get straight into it. And I just feel like, brother, it's gonna touch some people, man.
Yeah,
I really do. I've told you this so many times how strong I believe you are, and just how persevering you have been. And I think it's really gonna touch some people. So let's just get into it.
I hope so. I hope so. That's the whole point of it, right? All the stuff that we deal with in our everyday lives, man. I think sometimes people think it's ISO just to them. So hopefully my story resonates with somebody in some part of what we talk about, and they find a little bit of inspiration from it. So let's do it. Let's do it, man.
No doubt about it. Well, a lot of folks don't know this, but you grew up in Port Gibson, Mississippi.
Yeah, man.
So how was it growing up in Port Gibson, man? In the 80s and 90s, especially, like folks don't know.
It was fun, man. Ignorance is bliss. You know what I mean? So in so many different areas. When I grew up, man, I thought I had it all because at the end of the day, I grew up in a loving family. So I didn't know maybe some of the things that we lacked, especially when I was young. I don't by any means say that I grew up, dirt poor, man. But as I look back on it, I realized, when I grew up with my mom, when it was just me and my mom at the time, living in apartments and project housing, next to project housing. And then we finally moved in with my grandmother. The reasons behind that, for several other reasons, man. I understand now that everything wasn't peaches and cream like I thought it was, you know what I mean? But that's just a product of being young and being sheltered, but more or less being loved. I grew up in a home and a life of love, man. And so good old country boy, you know what I mean? Playing basketball in the backyard. My house was the house that everybody came to hoop, you know what I mean? So that was kind of how I had my friends in my neighborhood, Thompson subdivision. And Port Gibson isn't but this big, you know what I mean? So man, everybody would come over and we would just play all day, all night. I don't know if people younger than us hear the term or still use the term, be back at home by the time the street light was on, right? Well, in my neighborhood, I didn't have to worry about that because it was my yard everybody was hanging out in.
Right.
So that was nice, man. The older I get, and even as I got older in Port Gibson, I realized that Port Gibson was still a little bit segregated. And I mean that in a real way. All of the black people go to Port Gibson High School, Port Gibson School District, right? And then at the time, people who were not black, they went to Chamberlain Hunt Military Academy, or they went to another school outside of Port Gibson. I didn't really take much stock in that, though. Again, as a child, when you're going to school and you're seeing people that don't look like you only in the grocery store, right, or at the post office or at the doctor's office, you don't take much stock into that because that just seems like the norm. And so that in a nutshell to me is Port Gibson in the 80s and 90s, man. Good old wholesome town. But it is what it is, man. It's a very low income town. Was a low income town, had a lot of history and heritage, though. Still does to this day, a lot of history and heritage. But you're not going to find a lot of rich people in Port Gibson, Mississippi. Rich in love, rich in culture, but not rich financially.
I've heard it described as the city that was too beautiful to burn or something like that.
During the Civil War. Our history books tell us, and more importantly, the people of Port Gibson will tell you that Ulysses S. Grant, when he was coming through the South, burning down the cities as the Civil War was happening, he stopped in Port Gibson and said, "This town is just too beautiful to burn." And it really is, man. It's got some things to this day that make you open your eyes and not only say, "Wow," but make you think. Church Street, Highway 61 in Port Gibson has churches from, I believe, 12, maybe 10 different religions, just to give you an idea of how things were set up in Port Gibson, right? Presbyterian, Baptist, even had a mosque down there one time. So all of these different things, man, are still there in Port Gibson. Those churches are still there. You can drive right through the middle, through the heart of Port Gibson, and you can see that. That is what I mean by culture. The Mississippi River is right there. I'm on the backside of Port Gibson. You have to drive through Port Gibson to get to Alcorn State and to Windsor Ruins, another historical, significant spot in the South. So all of these great things there, man. And it's really where I got a chance to just be me, just grow up and be a kid, man, with no worries.
Now, I know you mentioned that you grew up in a home of love, and I know, of course, how much you love your mother. Can you kind of touch on maybe some little things that connect the child?
Yeah, man. I think, for me, I can only give you a lot of times secondhand accounts, because for those who don't know, my mom passed away when I was 9 years old. She died in a car accident. And so didn't die in the car accident. She died, a few months later in ICU from complications from the car accident. So the things that I remember, I can tell you this: I was a mama's boy. I was a mama's boy, no doubt. And I think people will tell you that who knew my mother to this day will tell you that, growing up over those 9 years, I was a mama's boy. And you would expect that anyway. My mom was like a superhero to me because it was just me and her. And then my sister came along, right? My mom died when my sister was 3. So it was just really the 3 of us, even when we moved in with my grandmother, we were just a tight knit unit, man. And my mom, in my eyes, could do no wrong. She was Superwoman. She loved me. She whooped me. She encouraged me. It was just a lot of love. But at the same time, even at that young age, I can remember her instilling some values in me, man, that I still carry to this day. One of those is just love people, man. Treat people the right way, regardless of whether they look different than you, act different than you. Treat them the right way. I got that from her. And that's something, if I don't have many memories, I do have that one. Treat people the right way, no matter what.
Well, that's something else. Well, I know it's tough, man, but you mentioned what happened with your mom.
Yeah.
Can you kind of just touch on the circumstances surrounding that? Because I know personally how that has shaped you and toughened you and everything like that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that can really inspire some.
It's surreal, as I get older and I watch people lose their parents or lose their sibling or the child, whatever it might be, I watch them go through different parts of grief. You know what I mean? The denial, the anger, the sadness, the bargaining, if you will, all of that, man. It just felt surreal to me in that moment, to be quite honest with you. When my mother was in a car accident like a year or so prior to her passing too. Very minor, very minor accident. So when they told me my mom was in a car accident, I kind of looked at it like I just told you. She's a superhero in my eyes, so she's going to be fine. You know what I mean? But it didn't turn out that way. She had complications, and she just couldn't battle back from it. So when they told me that my mom passed, I'll never forget the day. I woke up, and there was a bunch of people at the house, and they told me that my mom had passed away and had gone to be with the Lord. And even as a 9-year-old, you know what that means. And I was sad, but it just didn't feel real. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel real to me. Didn't feel real for a while, man. Even as I went to the funeral, right? and it was closed casket with just a picture of her on the front. Didn't feel real, right? Even at the burial site, didn't feel real. I mean, for weeks after that, it didn't feel real. But even in a young age, you realize there's some finality to that, man. That day forever changes my life, rightly so. But it changes my life in good and bad ways, ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. Because of it, I have had to battle through things personally, mentally, right? Whether it be me suffering from, I ain't gonna say suffering, me battling with the anxiety disorder, right? Me having to understand what it is that makes me tick about, trusting women, right? Things like that. Never really understood those things until I got older. Still learning. Every day is a journey in understanding how that changes me as a man and as a person. Devastating as you would imagine. No day gets better, but you have a better way of handling it. I'll just put it to you like that.
Well, I know once your mother passed away that you went to live with your grandmother.
Yeah.
How was that transitioning into that? Still, like you said, 9 years old, man. I
Yeah.
mean, my kids around that age. You know what I'm saying? My son's 10, my daughter's
Yeah.
8 going on 9. I can just imagine, what life would be like for them having to make a transition like this. So how was that for you?
So for me, man, it was easy, to be honest with you, because like I said, we were already living with my grandmother when my mom passed, right? So there was no me having to pack up and move here. We were still in that same house. So
Okay.
it was a blessing, obviously, to be able to be there, have my grandmother, my mom's mom, to take care of me and my sister. And so you gotta understand that, like, my perspective is gonna be totally different than my sister Shayla's perspective, because again, she was 3 when my mom passed. So I don't know if she has, well, I know she didn't have many memories, but how she feels about it is gonna be totally different than the way that I feel about it. For me, man, it was a house of love. It was a house of fun. I think my grandmother did a great job in making me feel like I'd lack for nothing. You know what I mean? My grandmother stepped up, man, and made sure I had everything that I needed, everything that I wanted to. I'll say that lady spoiled me. You know what I mean? And man, it was awesome to be able to be in that situation, and I mean that, from 9 to 12, felt like I lacked for nothing. And that's hard to be kind of relayed and for people to believe, but it's true. I can understand how somebody might look at it and say, I can't see how you say you lack for nothing, but it's true, man. And in that house, it was like, you are okay, you are safe. Now, maybe outside of those walls, all right, it's different. It's different. You know what I mean? Yeah, I felt like my attitude might have changed a little bit in school. I might not have been the same chipper person outside of those doors, but in the house, man, it felt like love and security as it always did.
Man, when I hear that, it makes it tougher really to ask you this next question then. Because okay, you dealt with the tragedy with your mom, and then you're telling me you went into this safe place
Yeah,
with your grandmama.
yeah,
But then your grandmama tragically passed. Like it's unbelievable the story about how she
yeah,
passed. Can you kind of touch on
yeah,
that?
yeah. It's another one of those surreal moments, brother, where you think, you can't make this stuff up, and it's probably going to sound like I'm being over dramatic about it, but from what I'm told, um, my father remarried to my now stepmother, and man, they told me that my grandmother had a massive heart attack in the lobby. She was coming to the wedding and had a massive heart attack in the lobby. I didn't see her. I didn't see it happen because I was in the wedding. But that's what I was told. And like I said, man, you and I've had this discussion before. The surreal moment for me, and it's as clear as day in my head, me going to that hospital and seeing my grandmother lifeless, right? Lifeless in the emergency room. And I'm 12, and my sister would have been 5 or 6 at the time. And that is what I mean when it's like time stops and you can't hear anything. You don't have any real coherent thoughts. You're just in that moment. Surreal, man, to to touch my grandmother and her hand and arm is cold. That's when you know it's real. Wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but it's just one of those things, brother, where it's just like, man, I don't want to say you feel cursed, but you just feel like,
I get that. I get that.
right? But as a 12-year-old, you just say to yourself, like, what now? What now? You know what I mean?
Man, that's just, I don't know.
Yeah. And listen,
that's one of the realest ways to describe it. Like, you
yeah. And you know, I don't really talk about it that much, not because it like, it hurts, but it doesn't like break me down like it used to. You know what I'm saying? It's more now that I don't know if people would believe the extremity of what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if people will be like, oh, he's laying on a little thick. I'm just telling you from my perspective, what I remember.
Yeah, you just recently told me that. Like, I knew your grandmother passed.
Yeah.
But I think maybe in 2019.
Yeah.
When you told me the circumstances, and I'm telling you, you absolutely blew my mind that day.
I think sometimes, man, you know, until people are ready to talk about stuff, they may not be able to put it in the right perspective. And I probably wouldn't have been able to say it to you the way, you know, you and I were just casually talking about it that time, where you were like, whoa, you're gonna have to repeat that again. Yeah.
Like out of a movie or something, man.
I know. So yeah, man, that's how it's kind of given to me. But it's weird, man. In that moment, right? This is why I have a faith that I believe in, right? Is why I believe in God. Is why I consider myself a Christian. It just so happened my uncle was in town that day, right? My mother's baby brother, her only sibling. It just so happened he was in town for another wedding. I believe he was in a wedding, if I'm not mistaken. And so he was there too when his mom passed, my grandmother, his mother. And you know how it goes from there, man. But that's crazy to me that he would be in town that day.
Well, I definitely want to get into your uncle because he's a real one. He really
yeah. You
mentioned your pop. Can you kind of discuss your relationship with your pop and how that has evolved over the years?
Yeah, man. You know, my pops currently is a pastor out just outside of Port Gibson, Mississippi. He is well known. We got the same name, right? He is well known in Port Gibson, Mississippi. I like to think of him as a legend in Mississippi, really, in Port Gibson. He is an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. Has his own restaurant down there. But my pops as a pastor would also tell you that he battled demons of his own. He's told me about some of those, man, as he grew up as a young man, right? Things that he may not be proud of, but at the end of the day, he overcame those things. That is a product of maybe him not being able to be there like he wanted to early on in our lives. But if you catch up with him now, man, my man is moving and grooving. Honestly, one of my favorite people. He really is. He can own a room. You know what I mean? Like, if you've met him, he makes a lasting impression on everybody. So we're good, man. I actually just talked to him yesterday. He was telling me about the Christmas card that I sent down there with me and my wife and my son. So we just caught up with each other, man. Always giving me good spiritual guidance, because that is what he does. It was different growing up, because obviously I didn't grow up with him like the typical father-son type deal. So we didn't have that typical father-son dynamic as you might be accustomed to. Not you, because, right, you know what I mean? But how most people are accustomed to of a father-son relationship. I never once hated my father. Like, you might hear some angry stories or anything like that. I love my father. I do. We just didn't have that dynamic that you might imagine. Now we do. We do, man. And it's a respectful, appreciative relationship. And I'm thankful for that. The older I get, man, the more I understand the importance of good, strong relationships. Some relationships are seasonal, in my opinion. Some are long lasting. That's one of the ones that I am appreciative of, that is long lasting.
All right. So with that said, getting back to your uncle.
Yeah.
You said basically he stepped up.
Yeah.
Stepped up and kept it
Yeah.
real and held you down.
Yep.
But he was a young man himself. You know what I'm saying? So
No.
I know that was a big transition for yourself, but also for him. Can you kind of touch on how that was transitioning to living with him and his wife?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Look, my grandmother wanted us to be with him, right? She had already had that set up.
Okay.
Even though he had to go through a little bit of court, dealings to make it happen. At the end of the day, my grandmother looked at her son as the right man for the job. And brother, when I tell you that this man is the GOAT, you know him. When I tell you this man is the GOAT, imagine this for anybody who's watching. A man in his mid-20s, right? Just had his own child, his first child, less than a year ago. Has to take in 2 more children, right? So he's a newlywed, he's a new father, and he takes in 2 more kids and does it, right? And I mean, does it. Took us in, put us in private schooling, right? To make sure we had the best education, because that's what he wanted for us, so he could, live up to what his mother and his sister would have wanted, right? Did it. Never heard him complain about it, man. You know what I mean? Always made me feel like I was one of his, right? My uncle and my aunt are a huge reason why I am successful, because those two took me in fresh off of a marriage and a child of their own and treated me and my sister like such. So much so that their 2 children are my sisters. I don't call them my cousins. I don't call them nothing else but my sisters. Victoria and Morgan, those are my sisters. You know that when I talk about them, man, I talk about them with as much pride as I do Shayla, because I love all of them. Those are my.
Call them cousins. Not one
time, not one time, and never will, man, because those are my babies. Morgan is a nursing school right now at UMMC, right? Victoria, as you just told me to pass along to, which she said appreciated, by the way, teacher of the year at her school in Brandon. You know what I mean? So I came up in that household. I came up in that household where, I came up in that household where that kind of demand for excellence, that kind of support, that kind of schooling was happening, man. So it was nice. Every time in my life growing up where it felt like things weren't going to pan out, something happened to give me another opportunity at life. And not just another opportunity, a better opportunity. As we keep talking, man, I'm going to get to a conclusion at the end. It's going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but I truly believe it. So I'm going to save it for now, but just hear me out at the end.
All right. Now you mentioned about your schooling. And I met you in high school.
Yeah.
So we both went to St. Joseph Catholic School in Madison, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And Madison looked very different at the time, people.
It did totally different.
If you're familiar with Madison, Mississippi, all that stuff that's there now, that was not there back then. But Madison still was different from where we come from. I'm from Canton. All the real ones out there that follow me, I know I'm from Canton, Mississippi, a city of struggle. And we just established that my brother Ray Leo, he's from Port Gibson, Mississippi, a city of struggle. So how was it adjusting to St. Joseph? Because St. Joe is a place where most of the kids are not like, though they don't have our background. You know what I'm saying? Like it was probably 70-30 white, black, or 60-40.
I would say so. Yeah.
But in terms of income, most everybody there was coming from a middle class or maybe even upper middle class background. So how was it adjusting to St. Joe?
Man, coming from Port Gibson, where you see a lot of struggle, and moving to Jackson, where we were living at the time when I moved to Jackson, was South Jackson. I lived right across the street from Forest Hill High School. I used to say to myself, man, going to Vicksburg was a big deal when you were living in Port Gibson, right? And coming to Jackson was like, oh man, you might want to put on some nicer clothes because you're coming to Jackson. When I got to St. Joe, It was in Jackson at the time because I was in 8th grade before they moved it out to Madison.
Okay.
But I just remember thinking, man, this is opulence. And like, even as an 8th grader, I remember using that word, like, this is opulence. It was just totally different. Now, it was not my first time going to school with people that didn't look like me, because I went to military school in Port Gibson, Chamberlain Hunt Military Academy, for a year and a half. So that was my first real time going to school with white people and people that just didn't look like me. Going to St. Joe was the first time I went to school with people that I knew were in like a different social class than I had come from. You know what I mean? And so that to me was a culture shock in a major way, man, where I was just like, whoa. And listen, not just the white people, I'm talking like the black people too. I could tell they were from a different walk of life than I was. Not that I come from like this super tough and rough background, because listen, my mother worked every day. My uncle, right, has worked for 25 plus years. He's a graduate of Jackson State University. My grandfather was the principal of Port Gibson's high school before he passed. My grandmother was a librarian at Alcorn State University, from what I remember. You know what I mean? So I didn't come from a place where it's just like, you don't know better. No, I'm just telling you, I was seeing kids being picked up in Mercedes Benzes and Volvos, and you know what I mean? I just never saw that. I just never saw that, man. So that was unique for me. And I was like, all right, man, this is something totally different. And it took a while to get adjusted to, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for it. But it was totally different than anything that I would have expected.
Now, while you were at St. Joe, some people may not know this, but you were involved in a myriad of things. You were involved in acting, singing, or which I had a group, what they call Majestic or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Dude, how did you remember that name? No, that is like the first time I've heard that name in forever. Yeah. So when I got to St. Joe, James Ashley, shout out to James Ashley, shout out to Clint Luckett. Those guys, I think they had like a group with like another guy too, and they called themselves Majestic. And then when I showed up, they found out that I could sing. You know, we just hanging out. And so I ended up joining their group Majestic, and we were singing in talent shows, and we were singing in school, you know, during mass and stuff. Man, how did you remember that? That's
because the girls used to start hollering when y'all started singing. So of course I remember that.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah,
you're involved in the arts. You're involved in sport, played basketball, football, ran track, all that. Can you talk to the people about the importance of being involved in the arts and in sports on your life?
It was the first time where I had truly found a place that embraced that. That's what I mean by the St. Joe experience. For me was unique, because I never really had that type of engagement where you could go and be like, all right, I want to sing, but I want to sing in like talent shows, but I want to sing in like musicals too. So I did theater. Now I couldn't act. I couldn't do like the real acting. When they did the real plays, don't look for me to do the real plays. But when they did like the musicals, I was all in, because it was like, I got skills in that. You know what I mean? So it was nice. It was nice and refreshing to be able to sing during mass and be a part of the school choir and sing in Christmas programs and stuff like that. That's the side of me that I always knew was there, but I never really had an avenue to unbottle that, man. Sports was always a thing for me, but it was nice to be able to engage in that music and art side as well.
Now, of course, the way we ended up bonding was the fact that we played on the basketball team together.
Yeah.
Being coached by a guy who I consider a legend.
Yes, another GOAT.
A father figure.
Another GOAT.
Great Keith Barnes Sr.
Yeah.
Who could be the most Christian man on earth.
And then what?
Once that whistle blow, he's an absolute tyrant. So how was it from your standpoint?
Imagine yourself as a 12-year-old, because I met him in 8th grade. Imagine yourself as a 12-year-old going to a basketball game and watching them play in the playoffs, you know, the high school team. And watching this guy that's about 6'4", 6'5", with some of the biggest hands you can imagine. and he is just yelling. And I mean, in a gym where people are looking at him like, man, what is wrong with this dude right here? Doesn't care. Doesn't care. And I know that I got to go through him one day because I want to play basketball. Basketball is my first love. It's the first sport that I ever played that I was like, man, I'm good at this, right? That dude I got to deal with soon. I was terrified of Keith Barnes. I'm terrified to call him Keith Barnes right now, truth be told. Coach. Coach. I'm a little scared right now, brother. No. But man, you know, playing for Coach Barnes, and you know this, playing for Coach Barnes was like the best, man. It was the best sports experience of my life. And I've done a lot of sports stuff. We're gonna talk about that, but the best sports and on the flip side of that, one of the best life experiences I've ever had too. Coach Barnes challenged me in ways that he may not even know. You know what I mean? I was angry because of things that had happened to me in my past that we just talked about. And I didn't know the proper outlet. He allowed me to have that outlet and say, you can be competitive, but you got to be respectful at the same time. Because if you don't respect me, if you don't respect your opponent, hell, if you don't respect yourself, then it's not going to be a good product for you at the end. You know what I mean? So Coach Barnes, like you said, man, he was a father figure for us. Even though I had my father figure, I had my father, but he was another great man in my life to kind of show me the way. He was always very insightful too, man. He could tell when I wasn't in my best mentally. He could always sense that. That's the thing that I appreciate about Coach Barnes. Whereas I would play in certain games when I was coming up in Port Gibson, and I might be told, man, you're going a little too hard. Coach Barnes encouraged me to go harder. That helped me understand that my competitive spirit was okay. That's helped me in life today to understand that I'm a guy like that. When I learn how to do something, I'm so excited about it. I'll tell you about it. I'll tell my wife about it. You know what I mean? Because that's how excited I am when I'm able to like conquer something. He helped me with that, to say, turn that competitive spirit into drive and get better at your craft. So a huge part of my success goes to Coach Barnes too, because without him, I don't have that encouragement competitively to go to the next level. And I now know what crazy looks like too. I know now it's okay for me to be crazy because I know what real crazy looks like.
I was just about to get into
Go ahead.
because
Go ahead.
America, we're talking about this man glowingly, and he was a great man.
Sure.
Even after a loss, he gonna pray for you. He gonna he was gonna thank God that you lost.
But he was also,
because he wanted you to learn a lesson from that loss.
He did.
He wanted us to know that the race is not given to the swift.
He did.
Nor the strong. But he or she that endure until the end. So all that is true.
But before that, he would also call timeouts to tell you, and by you I mean me. Told me one time as I'm handling the rock in the game, to tell me, call the timeout. We down, we're down what, 2 or 3 points. I'm guessing. You know what you telling these people every time you sitting here dribbling that damn ball? Look at me, I'm stupid. That's the same guy. That's the same guy. The same guy that my brother just said will pray for you and look after you, will have you ready to come to blows with one of your good friends in high school in the middle of practice because your competitive spirit is taking over. And he's like, okay, since y'all played like crap the other night, then y'all should take it out on each other. Encourages it.
What did he tell our bigs when they weren't boxing out? They were getting whooped on the low block and everything. He said, y'all, they're beating you like a drum. Y'all change your name.
Change your name to bass and snare. Hey, man, had some of the best still does have some of the best one-liners.
Hey, the last one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Now, America, we were done playing for him at this point. You know how alumni just go and check out the old school and
that's
see,
right.
So we looking at coach and we thinking he tripping because we're not seeing the same fire that, how he used to get on us.
That's right.
But
That's right.
then one of those players was just standing out there, and Coach Bourne known for a motion offense. He one of those guys. Okay. He's not about to get a lot of ISO, not at least not back then. You ain't about to get about, you're gonna be in motion. And this kid was standing around.
Yeah.
He called a timeout.
What did he tell him?
If you know basketball, timeouts are precious. Timeout, especially in high school ball, because you really might have to do some instruction. No. He would call timeout just to tell you stuff like my brother said. But this time he told this man this. He said, I don't know what you're standing around looking for. Jesus ain't coming back till he get ready.
Till he get good and ready, man. Good and ready. And he has so many of those. Like, there are so many of those that we'll have to come back and do a segment just on coach alone, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to just, talk about road trips to Mississippi State when we play in tournaments, down at Southern Miss, when we were making runs to state championships, man, competing at the big house.
Yeah,
the stories, man. The way that he went. Yeah, no, go ahead, man.
We didn't get it done.
Yeah.
We won several district championships.
Yep.
We won a state runner-up. I don't even know what my silver medal is.
Me neither.
Does that still get at you to this day?
Every day.
We were making a paper. We were making a paper and stuff. We had those wins and stuff because people were doubting us. So they're Catholic school, but they playing in the Mississippi High School Activity Association, meaning we're not playing with the private schools and nothing. We're playing with everybody.
We're playing the who's who. We would go and play at the Jackson Public Schools, Pepsi Holiday Tournament. And so we be playing against JPS schools, the inner city schools.
Rankin tournament. That's a big school here in Mississippi, Northwest Rankin. So we
Summer League.
Oh God.
Summer League, we would go and play, what are now the 6A schools in Mississippi. So the biggest of big, Meridian, Starkville, we were playing those teams and beating them, not just playing them, beating them.
Remember the man took my class and your class.
Yeah.
So I think I was coming out of my 9th grade year, you coming out of your 10th grade year.
I was just coming off a knee surgery. Yeah.
This man, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
This man took us to an AAU tournament.
With our regular team.
With our AAU tournament.
And remember, a couple of guys couldn't even go. So we were really down there at an AAU tournament with like 8 guys, and they're putting together dream teams. And we're playing 3-4 games a day. And Coach Barnes don't care nothing about it. He don't care that we're exhausted. He like, you need to be getting your back down the other end.
Hey, I had like 25 in a game.
You don't care.
I caught a cramp, and that man cursed me all the way out. I just wasn't conditioned.
You know what I appreciate about Coach, man? He never, ever gave us an opportunity to make an excuse, though. Like that was always the thing, man. And like that's what I'm saying. Like I carry that on in my life where there are no excuses, regardless of the circumstances around you. And there can be plenty. There are no excuses. You have to figure it out. Your life literally depends on it. And in certain cases, you have to figure it out. And that's another thing that Coach Barnes taught us.
So does it still bother you today that we didn't get it done?
Absolutely.
Like for me, that's one of the reasons I end up coaching, because
absolutely
I feel like I didn't get it done.
Yeah. There are some folks who still remember us to this day. There's a guy that works for the MHSAA that I'm friends with now because of my days in media, and I still do some work with them, and I do play-by-play for a local high school here in football, and he remembers our squads. And he's like, man, y'all should have won the year that y'all played in 2000. And I'm just like, yeah, you don't have to bring that up. You know what I mean? because I know yeah. I want it that bad. It wouldn't matter now because nobody's going to acknowledge it, but I love to play one more game. You know what I mean? That's the competitive spirit in me that just wants to get it done. And yeah, man, it bothers me. It bothers me because I feel like I'm a champion. But I'm not in that realm because at the end of the day, the other team won. They're the champions.
No doubt about it. But that teaches you how to deal with that. We had to
Yeah,
cry
yeah.
and dry those eyes, keep fighting.
Keep
You
moving.
know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Got
yeah,
gotta keep fighting. Now, as I said, you also played football.
yeah.
I know you said basketball your first love and you were good at that, but I know some of my football folks don't like this, but I always feel like if you're good at basketball and you're
It's a
and
coach
you're
talking right here. It's a coach
and you're
talking.
and you're willing to get hit,
Uh-huh.
then you can easily make a transition to football. And that's what I would see. Like you ran our team as a point guard, so you had to
Yeah,
dribble and shoot and do all that kind of stuff. Football, you just had to go out there and run, catch the
yeah,
ball, and do your thing. And so you were great at football as well. Actually,
yeah,
you and I have talked about it. I really think you probably would have had a future, at least collegiately,
yeah.
in football, but you suffered a devastating knee injury.
One.
Do you remember when it happened?
Yeah, I do. I do. I was 10th grade. Was
Mm-hmm.
playing running back at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Regular handoff. I form, ISO right up the middle. You know what I mean? They don't even run. They don't even run I formation anymore. By the way, that's how old we're becoming. They don't even run I formation anymore. Right up the middle. Made a guy miss. Went to plant to take a quick cut to the left, and a guy just helmet went right into my right knee. It hurt, but it didn't hurt like excruciating pain because I played like 3 more downs before I came out. So it
What?
wasn't one. Yeah, so it wasn't one of those things where it's like I'm laying on the ground grabbing grass and screaming and all of this stuff. No, I played like 3 more downs, and I came out, and I just noticed when I was running off, I was limping. It was a little bit of pain, but the thing that scared me was that I could feel my knee like sliding in and out while I was coming off. And they told me I had a torn meniscus, and I missed 1 week. Came back and played the rest of the season.
What?
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. I played the rest of the season. I missed 1 week. Got a knee brace, got my knee wrapped up, played the rest of the season. And then I had surgery towards the end of my 10th grade year when we were playing basketball. So I still played basketball for like half the season, and I had knee surgery. You may not remember, but at the championship game, I was sitting at the end of the bench with crutches. And I just remember thinking like, man, this is crazy. Championship game, and I'm not even dressing out with my teammates. So yeah, man, it affected me then. And to be quite honest with you, but to the folks who are watching, it affects me now to the point where I've had, I call it 2.5 surgeries. I've had many little minor procedures where they drain fluid from my knee. But I have an orthopedic specialist at the age of 36, and my orthopedic specialist tells me that I have the right knee of a 65-year-old. So I have no more meniscus in my right knee. The cartilage is worn down to the bone, and I am literally awaiting the day where I can get a knee replacement, essentially. So that's kind of where I'm at with it now. And that goes back to, again, things in life change you along your journey. I talked about the good things, the bad things. That's another real thing that affects my life to this day.
Man, with all that said, first of all, I'm amazed that you were able to play the rest of that season like that. That's first and foremost.
I just wanted to. I just wanted to. And I don't say that like I'm a super tough guy. I just wanted to get up and compete. So, I don't know if I undersold it to my parents or like didn't let on to the coach or the doctors, like how bad it was. I don't even know if in that moment it was really bad. It may have been a minor tear that caused me pain at certain times, but was still able to, knowing what I know now, I shouldn't have done it, right? I know now that they're professional athletes, that if they get any kind of minor sprain or tear, they're missing weeks. Now, yeah, they're supreme athletes, so they can have a surgery and be back in 2 weeks with the rehab and the around the clock care. But we're talking 2000 in high school. I didn't have that. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have been playing, but I just wanted to compete, man. I've always been like that. I look at football like in high school, you get 10 games unless you make it to the postseason. So if you miss a game, that's 10% already gone. You can't get it back. You can't get it back. So I've always been that way where I want to compete, and I don't care who it's against. I don't care if you think they're better than me or I'm better than them. I just want to compete and see where it happens. And that's probably a detriment in the end when we're talking about my knee. But hey, it is what it is.
So what are your thoughts being on the dangers of playing football, or whether it can be something like your situation with a knee injury or even CTE, which something we've discussed privately. Do you think that the risks involved in playing football are outweighed by the life lessons and teamwork that you gain?
Football is tough, man. Football is a lot like, they're two totally different things, but it's a lot like boxing, right? You're gonna get hit. You're probably gonna get hit hard, so you have to calculate risk versus reward. For me, the risk was worth it. I got a kid now, your godson, 2 years old. I don't know. I don't know, honestly, when it comes to football, man. Because if we're talking a knee injury, then I'm kind of going to be a hypocrite. But when you say the word CTE, when you say those three letters, when you say, long-term brain injuries, whether it be dementia, when you talk about, guys not being able to remember they played football, those things are scary. I don't like to live in fear, but I will definitely tell you, I'll be extra cautious with my kid, man. I have to. I'm cautious with him in every day of my life. I have to look at it long term, not in that small window of football for a professional athlete or a high school athlete or a college athlete. The window is 18, if you're lucky, 30. That's 12 years. But in those 12 years, you could truly do some real damage to your body. So it's just something that as he gets older, if the good Lord blesses him to have talent out of this world where he can do it, I don't want to be the one to hold that up. But at the same time, his mom and I will definitely be sure to take every precaution that's necessary and that can happen if the young man wants to play football.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, he got it. Because that's why I call it tank. That boy got put together. Either he gonna play some football, or he gonna be a world champion weightlifter, or he gonna be one stout point guard running around the jack. And that's what I love now. If he had stud point guard.
I don't know where he gets it from, man. His mom and I are both small individuals. I don't know where he gets the size from. Must be on down the line of one of our lineages, whatever the case. He is a solid kid. I tell you what he cannot do. He will not be able to box because he grew up in a household where he is getting everything that he wants spoiled beyond what should be. And spoiled kids don't normally do well in the ring. Boxers are hungry. All right. Boxers are hungry.
Right.
If I have it my way, my son is not going to struggle. So therefore, he should not get in the ring, because guys like that get in the ring get themselves hurt.
You putting it on tape for him right now to let him.
Putting it on tape for him right now. Put it on tape for him right now. Don't try it. Don't try it, because I'm telling you now, you're coming up in a world where as long as your father is around, you're going to be taken care of, protected, loved, provided for. And it just normally doesn't make for a good boxer.
You don't want to see him in a Nate Robinson situation.
No, I don't. I don't actually. I really don't.
Well, now you went to the University of Southern Mississippi.
Yes, sir. To the top.
No doubt. In which that actually kind of influenced me to go down there as well. What made you choose that school?
Man, I had taken a couple of visits. By a couple, I really mean two. Southern Miss was one of them. When I went down there, I just really liked the atmosphere. I knew I didn't want to go to school far away from my home, just because I'm that guy anyway. It's hard for me to kind of like detach. I just really got to the point as a man where I'm willing to say, if I need to just get up and risk it all and break away, I can do that. At that time, I was not ready to do that, man. So Hattiesburg was just far enough to feel independent, but close enough where I could still have that connection, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Now this next question is very, very, very important in
Okay.
terms of any of the youngins out here that are listening.
Yeah.
Because I see so many people on my Twitter timeline and things of that nature that say college is a scam, and they keep saying things like they hate their major, they just waiting for it to be over,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So I know you majored in mass communications.
Yeah.
So I would like to know what was your thought process in choosing that major? Because one of the things I think is that these children are not out here really putting in a lot of thought
Okay.
into these majors. I think they're just hearing that something makes some money, and then they're going into that, and they're not really matching up the abilities God has given them
Yeah.
with their pursuits or with their goals. So what was your thought process that went into you choosing mass comm?
All right. Let me see if I ever told you this then. Did I tell you when I got to Southern Miss that my original major was not mass communications? It was
I don't
nursing.
think so. No, see, I
Okay.
always assumed that it was mass
Okay.
comm, because if I'm not mistaken, you did some things with at St. Joe with the school paper
I
as
did.
well.
I did. I did. I
See,
did.
that's why I thought it just
I
was a
did.
carryover.
So I got to Southern Miss and I chose nursing. Maybe I should have, because nursing in 2020 is making all the money. But I didn't. Here's why I didn't stick with nursing, brother. Twofold. The truth of the matter is, I knew deep down my passion was in communications. That's what I do. I'm a communicator. My wife will tell you I over communicate sometimes, but that's just what I do. I'm good with words, spoken word and written word. That's what I do really well. And I do well with long-term thinking on how one message can be conveyed 5 different ways, 5 different avenues, and how what you say now can have second and third order effects. I've always known that. Always known that. But in my mind, I wanted something a little bit more stable. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Freshman year, sociology class. I don't know how I got into a 300 level course my freshman year. Sociology class. It was about childbirth and the family. I'll never forget it. Southern Miss Liberal Arts Building, watching a childbirth on one of the box TVs. You know how they roll in the TV. I'm sitting auditorium style seating and I'm getting hot. I'm sweating as I watch this childbirthing video occur. What's going on? I'm looking around. Everybody else is fine. I get up because I'm like, man, I'm not feeling well. I get up. I go out of the classroom, doors on either side. Luckily, there's a bathroom right next to our class. Pass out.
What? You have never told me this. What?
I could not handle it. Dropped the class. Dropped it. Dropped it.
What the world?
Bro, I couldn't do it, man. And I know like that didn't have to be my world in nursing, right? You could find your niche, your specialty, if you will.
Yeah.
But none of the stuff that I thought about long term, even in that short window of me being an 18-year-old trying to figure it out, I just knew that wasn't my passion. My passion was something that at the time didn't relay to a lot of money. And so while it may not have been a good idea on the surface when you say it out loud, I just really felt like, man, things will work out where I could figure it out. When I was in high school, they used to make fun of me all the time because I was always writing in my notebook all the stats of like Cowboys players and NBA players. I can name every like all-star lineup from the NBA for like the past 10 years. I was always doing that. I can name the starting rosters from the Atlanta Braves, from the Dallas Cowboys, from the Chicago Bulls, from the Philadelphia 76ers when they had AI. I could keep that information and it would just stay in my head and I could regurgitate it like that. I've always been able to do that. Even to this day, I've always been able to do that. So I figured I might as well give it a shot. And from when I made that decision and I wasted a year at Southern Miss, not playing around, just enjoying college life my freshman year. When I got my life right academically and locked in on my classes, man, it was no looking back because I knew that not only could I do it, that I was going to be good at it. I was so good in these classes, man, whether it be video production, whether it be radio production, whether it be media law and ethics, all of it intrigued me. So I knew I was on the right track. College, I can hear the argument of people saying it's a scam. College does two things. Helps you figure out what your specialty can be. Now, you may say you're wasting money if you're going and you don't know what it is. I disagree. I'm proof that it can be that way. So you go and figure it out and you can hone your skills at the same time. The other thing is college presents life to you in a way that I think is very unique. It's like a bubble almost. So you get to be in a place where you're somewhat protected because you're a college student, but you get to experience real life stuff. You know, you get to see harsh realities, but you don't get to see them every day on a large scale. Every now and then that real life comes into it. And as you well know, gives you crap that's got nothing to do with you. And then you get that real life that bursts your bubble. But for the most part, you're in a bubble. And from my college perspective, I gained my real lifelong friends that I call my brothers, right? I knew you at St. Joe. We hung out. We were on the team together, right? But we became brothers at Southern Miss. Joe, TJ, Clay, Patty, these are people that I met at Southern Mississippi, right? When I was 18 years old. I'm 36. Another 18 years on top of that, we're brothers. Like our bonds are like this, man. When we talk to each other every day in group text, you know what I mean? We do everything. Our wives know each other. It's that level that college brings to you. I'm not saying you have to go to college to make friends, but that's where you truly find out what relationships can look like. And more importantly, you can start really finding out who you are as an individual as well. I really found out who I am spiritually to a certain extent. I started to figure that out because I had a professor challenge me because I was so closed-minded to other religions that he challenged me on a few things, man. And I can't think of that professor's name, to be honest with you, but what it did for me, it helped me learn that it's okay for me to have my faith and be religious, right? And be spiritual and be confident in that and be okay with openly saying, I am a Christian. Mm-hmm. But it also taught me tolerance. It also taught me that if you're truly a Christian and you love, then you love regardless. That's your only charge. You know what I mean? The rest of it has nothing to do with you. Tolerance and love. I learned that in college. I didn't learn that growing up, you know, in Port Gibson and Jackson, where I went to church every Sunday. I learned that in college. Okay. So that's what college is an experience. It's not just an institution. It is an experience. So for people who say that, I disagree. I really do. I disagree when you say it's a scam. It's not a scam. It's an experience and it's a life journey that I'm not saying it's for everybody, but if you have that option, you should definitely give it a shot.
Now, once you graduated, you got into the television business and you got on with WAPT, which is in Jackson, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of talk to the people about how it was rising through the ranks there? Because I know many people who may follow you online and everything, they remember you from being the sports director, from being on there and delivering, or they loved seeing you at 5 o'clock every day and stuff like that. But can you talk to the people about the grind? You know what I'm saying? Because people want to be that version of you. They don't want to have to do the other stuff you had to do to get to that version of you. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Can you talk to them about how it was rising through the ranks there?
My first job at WAPT, I interned there towards the end of my stint at Southern Miss, and I got a job as a photographer. So that's the person that goes out with the reporter to film the story. A lot of times they don't do that now because they call them one man or one woman bands, where you go out and you just film it by yourself. It used to be you were a duo, reporter and photographer. You go out together and film that story. Lamont Brown, who I call Chief, who I talk to this day, who's a great mentor to me and a friend now, gave me an opportunity. He knew my aunt that raised me along, my uncle. They grew up in Brookhaven, and so he gave me an opportunity. That's what I mean, man, about people, lining up in your life. Chief, what I call him, Chief gave me an opportunity that set me on a trajectory. Just giving me an opportunity. Sometimes, man, you can have all the talent in the world, but you need the right opportunity. This man looked at me, saw that if nothing else, he would get my best every day, whether I didn't know it or didn't get it right or not, that he get my best, gave me a shot. And I didn't have it all when I first got there. My first gig, I think I made $19,000 a year. That's a reality check. That's not just a slim check. That's a reality check.
Now, brother.
Yeah.
I got some youngins now who ain't out there, who may not be out here yet fully.
Yeah.
So they hear you say 19 racks.
And they think it's all good.
They think it's all good, brother. Because I had a youngin one time say, I had a youngin one time when I was still teaching. They didn't want to listen that day. And the youngin said if he had a job making $10 an hour, he would be living like a doctor or lawyer.
No, sir.
So I'm telling you, there's some people out there that when you say 19 racks, they think you tripping. But can you give them some perspective on the kind of budgeting, the kind of discipline you had to have to manage something like that?
Yeah, man. 19K doesn't get you far in life. And that was back in 2006. After you pay a few bills, you may have a few dollars to get you at the time what was 99-cent chicken nuggets from Wendy's. Right. When I finally got enough, when I finally had the opportunity to get an apartment, because I had moved back in with my parents after college, man, because I couldn't afford that right off the bat. But even when I got my apartment, I had a little raise of about $2,500. Man, it was still rough. I mean, rough nights where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna have some top ramen tonight, and I'm gonna imagine that it's spaghetti. I'm gonna imagine it's the finest linguine, but it's just ramen noodles. That's all it is. So it's tough. It's tough, but for me, man, that's some of the best times in terms of grinding, like you said, because man, it was just work. It was just the work. It was just the work. You hear great athletes talk about putting in the work, even when they're losing year after year before they get to that peak. I think of Kobe Bryant. I think of Michael Jordan when I hear him talk about just putting in the work. And instead of you saying like, I want to win the championship, enjoy the journey along the way. That's some of the best advice I could give, like the youth coming up, man, and young men and women. Enjoy that journey as much as it may suck when you're like, I don't have enough money for this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my rent, or my lights are going to get cut off. Keep grinding, keep hanging in there, because I do believe that with hard work and opportunity, you can elevate yourself. That's all you want. You just want an opportunity to elevate yourself. But you got to be on point when it happens. So you have to continue to put in the work. Some of my favorite memories, man, is me working on the weekends when everybody else is out partying, and being able to get together and do stuff. Man, when I first started work, I could never come out and hang with y'all because I was always working on the weekends. Because why? I was the newest guy on the totem pole. So the lowest on the totem pole, which means I had to take the worst shift, which is the weekends. Okay, whatever. It's not ideal, but let's make it happen. I learned the business through working on the weekends because I was the only guy who could go out and film stuff. Also, by doing that, I was able to finesse opportunities to go and film Jackson State games, or roll with the sports director and go and film Mississippi State games and Ole Miss games and Southern Miss games, which then in turn allowed them to trust me enough that when bowl season came around, I could go with them then and start shooting bigger games. Because why? They knew that I could work on my craft and bring back the best video. It was a competition, man, between me and other photographers in the building to see who brought back the best B-roll, the best footage. We literally had the competition.
Going back to the competition.
We literally had the competition, man. Me and another guy, a former coworker of mine named Justin. I think he works in Minneapolis now, man. We had me, Justin, Big Calvin, Elvis. These guys, man, we would have competitions to see who had the quote unquote, we call it the best beam footage. Roll that beautiful beam footage, man. And so we would put it together and see what was what. And so that's what I mean, man. Always being in the zone of wanting to get better. And so I took those opportunities in my first 3 years at WAPT to just hone my craft, get those opportunities when I could, when other people may be turning it down. You take it on and see what happens. And what I got from that is when I was out with the sports guy at the time, and he was doing stuff for real, doing it live. After he was done, I would ask him, hey, man, can you film me now? Nobody may ever see it, but just film me. I want to go back and look at it to see how I look on camera, how I sound, to see how I can get better at doing it. And the sports director at the time, Christian Steckel, he was gracious enough to do that, to allow that and help me out with that. He and the weekend sports reporter, Brittany Deal was her name. And they would just allow me to kind of hang with them, man, and give me opportunities where it was, until I finally presented that to the news director, the boss of the newsroom, and he gave me a shot to start working with them. First, it was just high school football, and then he would let me do a little Saturday football. And when the time came, when the opening came, I got the job as the weekend sports anchor and took it from there.
And so you took it from there, and you took it to being the sports director at WAPT.
Mm-hmm.
And that made you one of the faces of sports coverage in our state.
Yeah.
So America, those of y'all that may be crossing over now, you've seen my brother on my Put It On Some podcast. When I say he's the pulse of Cowboys Nation, I'm not just saying this is some random Cowboys fan. This is a guy who has professionally covered sports throughout the Southeast. Like he's great at this.
No doubt.
So how did it feel to become a local celebrity? Because I told you now, when I used to go out with you from time to time, it was rough. I had to make sure I was dressed appropriately to be with my brother amongst the people. Cause folks go, hey, ain't you? Ain't you? Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
So how was that?
It was surreal, man, and it still is from time to time when people will stop me when we're out. Now, not as much as it used to, because it's 2020 and I just really don't go a lot of places now, man. But when it first started happening, it was so weird. And even when I had been at WAPT, close to 10 years, man, and people would see me in the grocery store and say, I watch you all the time. That was always a weird feeling. Not like a weird feeling like don't talk to me. I was just always like, man, somebody would really take time out of their day to flip on the channel and watch me. Look, man, I grew up watching Rob J, right? A legend in our area. And I would be on the sideline with Rob J now. Rob J is a friend of mine now. You know what I mean? Like, I went from watching this guy as a young man to now being in his air, right?
That's like some Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Like
America,
this man Rob J that he's speaking about, when it comes to sports in the Jackson metro area, Jackson is the only really metropolitan area in the state of Mississippi. This guy Rob J is like Michael Jordan of sports coverage around here. And
he's
so that's crazy. Yeah,
he's the man. So like being able to just get to know him, man, and pick his brain and listen to his stories and talk to Rick Cleveland, who's a legendary sports writer, man, that wrote for the Clarion Ledger and wrote for over 30 years, man. And still writing to this day. To be around those guys. I'm from Port Gibson, Mississippi, man. And if you tell me all this is gonna happen to you after what you've been through, but it happens. It happened. It's still happening. You see what I'm saying? So like, that's why I say all of these circumstances happen on a timeline, and they may feel like they're dramatic, but they're all a part of a plan. They really are. And it's all about how you pursue them and approach them. Life deals you blows, man, ups and downs, goods and bads. How you receive them and how you move on from them, good, bad, or indifferent, is how your life shapes. And I'm a firm believer of that, man. I never took it for granted when people said they watch me. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I wanted them to know how appreciative I am that they would do that. That's always been so cool to me. Because of that job, I was able to do things that I saw on TV. NCAA tournaments, right? I saw Jimmy Graham play college basketball. The NFL star tight end. I saw him play college basketball. I saw Derrick Rose play when he was in Memphis, right? I covered my quarterback, Dak Prescott, who plays for the Cowboys. I covered him almost every other Saturday, right? And now I'm watching him and critiquing him with you. Man, it's surreal, but it's real. That's the difference. I did that. And it's because I had, yes, great people in my corner to help me and mold me and guide me. But it's the work. It's the work. It's the work. My brother is not successful just because he has skills. It's the work. It's always going to be the work. There are plenty of talented people out there. I see them all the time. There's no work. You have to put in the work.
My favorite thing from your time on TV was whenever homecoming season would roll around. And you broke out that song from you and I's favorite comedy, Come to America.
Yeah.
What in the world made you start singing?
I don't know.
She's your queen to be. Because I think was that a favorite of your viewers too? Would they write you and stuff like that and say they love that?
So the kids who were planning the games and their peers had no clue what I was talking about. No clue. Right? They thought that I was just like thinking I could sing, right? And they thought I was a bad singer, just making up a song about the homecoming queen and our highlights. So here's what would happen. Anytime our photographers would go out to these games during homecoming season, they would literally show up to a game maybe at like halftime, because in high school football in Mississippi, like on these high school shows, everybody's working so hard, man. Photographers are going out and they're going to like 2 different schools. And so what? You get a game at the beginning, shoot the first half, and then you race over to another school. And when you show up, it's halftime. So you get what you call an establishing shot just to set the highlight. Hey, let's head out to Canton versus Velma Jackson. And the opening shot is going to be the homecoming queen. So I would see that for like a 4-week window. Every game would be that. It'd be the homecoming queen, the homecoming queen. And so I said, you know what? Since y'all just going to keep doing this, I said, how about this? I already know what's coming next. She's your queen to be. And my co-host would laugh. Everybody in the studio would laugh because they knew, because we're all of the same, pretty much the same age range. The kids knew nothing of it. But you know who loved it? The parents. They would hit me up, man. They'd be like, you are hilarious. The kids would be like, he think he can sing. First of all, I can sing. That's the first thing. Right. Second of all, do your homework. Y'all look at Coming to America. It's it is the funniest movie, period.
That's sad that these chicks, America, do better. Do better.
Do better. Do better.
Your children need some culture. Do better.
Yes. Yes.
What was your best interview, man?
Honestly, the one that I'm probably it's two. One is just because of the nature of the interview and how I just said, forget it. Let's just take a shot and see what happens. And the second one is one that I'm proud of because of work ethic. The first, the excitement, Dak Prescott, I interviewed him after the Liberty Bowl, a bowl game that he played in. I want to say it was his first season as a starter. And so ESPN or Fox, whoever's covering the game, like the big Fox, the big ESPN, they don't like for you to interview players on the field. They always hated that because they wanted to be able to have their reporter grab the coach and the star player after the game live, right? Well, I wasn't really in the mood for that. I had a deadline to meet, and I was like, man, you know what? I told my photographer who was with me, who's the chief photographer, I said, hey, man, we getting Dak as soon as it's over. We ran out on the field. I don't know what came over me. I just grabbed Dak. 6'3", 230 at the time pound Dak. Said, Dak, I'd love to get you for an interview real quick. Before he could say no, I just started asking questions. Proud of that. Proud of that. He was such a pro about it, man. He just started answering all my questions. And before it's done, it looks like, from the way my chief filmed it, it looked like I just had the hookup to be able to run up to Dak after the game, and boom, I got the one-on-one, right? So it looked really good. The second one that I'm most proud of, it just shows the work. I had an opportunity to interview a NASCAR driver by the name of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's from Mississippi, lives in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. But I am not by any means a NASCAR fan fanatic. You know what I mean? Like, I know the sport because I had to, but I didn't want to just show up and interview Ricky, who was in town at the time, and just ask him like a generic question. Hey, what's it like to be a NASCAR driver? No, I wanted to do extensive like research on him, his driving style. I want to talk to him about what it's like to be inside an oven, inside of a sweatsuit, inside of a helmet for 3 or 4 hours, driving at speeds that would make most people sick, right? And he's doing that continuously for 3 hours. That's how in depth I wanted to get into it. And I told him ahead of time, I said, hey, man, I'm not by any means a NASCAR, aficionado. And when we were done, I just remember him saying, hey, man, this is like one of the best interviews I've ever done. Like, this is really cool. That's what I mean by like, I got juice, man. Like, I know what I'm doing. It's another one of those things where if you put in the work, you'll be able to do what you need to do to be good at your job, be great at your job.
Well, I gotta ask you this because I know just like all teachers have their ones that we remember, and coaches we got our one that we remember that gave us a tough time. So, what was your one? What was your worst interview?
So, I asked then head coach Hugh Freeze a question. I don't even remember what the question was. I just remember like when I asked it, you know how you say stuff sometimes and you just like, why did I say that? Or like, that was a dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked it in front of like a ton of people. You know what I mean? But Hugh Freeze was so nice about it. He answered even though it was a dumbass question. And sorry for saying it that way. It was a dumb question. He answered it like just as such a nice guy. But you could tell how he answered it. He was like, that was a dumb question. He kind of answered it and moved right along. I don't even remember what I asked him. It was just a horrible question, man. And I've had a couple of those. I've also had some. These are the ones that bother me. I've had some where like I have asked a coach or a player a question and I have called them the wrong name 3 times before I even realized that I've called them by the wrong name. You know what I mean? And for the most part, they're probably going to be too nice or don't want to make you look bad. But there've been some guys that be like, hey, man, that's not my name. I'm just like, so for every high, there is a low. Right. I am not perfect. I am not perfect. And I have done some boneheaded things, but I'm still batting 300, good enough for the Hall of Fame.
There it is. It is. Now, what's a secret about the business that your former viewers would be shocked to know? Because like you used to always tell me, people just saw you on TV and just thought everything was gravy, like you didn't have to work for, like So, what's something that your former viewers would be shocked to know about their business?
To know that it's not the 30 minutes that you see, the hour that you see on television, however long that show may be, it's not that. It's the 8 to 10 hours before that. Hey, man, when that camera popped up on me and they said 3, 2, and they pointed, that was the easiest time of the day because the work has been put in. Now it's just time to perform. And I love to perform. You know what I mean? So like that part for me was easy. It's the 8 to 10 hours before that. They don't see how much work these people put in from producers. If you're talking, I don't know, maybe like Good Morning America or the Today Show, then okay, maybe they have like associate producers for this one particular anchor. But in local journalism, it's not happening. These people are grinding all day, every day. They are working around the clock. They are sacrificing family time. I can't tell you how many times I had to tell my wife, no, I can't go and do this. You know, y'all will be doing stuff sometimes on the weekend. I'll be like, I can't make it. Right. That's the sacrifice that these people make, man. In this year of 2020 and really in recent history where there's like an attack on the media, I don't like that. I'll be honest about it because there's some crazy media out there. Don't get me wrong, but there's crazy walks of life in all walks of life. So media is just a part of that, man. For the most part, media folks are some of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. They work hard because they all have this dream of hitting it big, But in order for you to hit it big, you got to stand out. In order for you to stand out, you have to do amazing things. In order for you to do amazing things, you have to work hard and a lot. So that would be the biggest misnomer, that they just haven't made in the shade and their stars. No, they're working. Trust me.
Now you shocked a lot of people when you left TV to go into state government. You know, because a lot of people in government try to leave government and get into the private sector and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you shocked a lot of folks by leaving TV and getting into state government and going to the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency.
Yeah.
What influenced you to make that move?
Just knowing, like I said, when I was in college, it was a thing of, I know that I'm good at this. Well, I learned in television that my skills would translate well to PR, right? TV has a way of making you make an all in or all out decision. And I think that's good. I'm not saying that in a bad way. If you're all in, then you can do it, but it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And some of those sacrifices I just spoke about, I wasn't willing to make anymore. I wasn't willing to tell my wife every weekend from July to January, don't look for me. Because what am I doing? I'm covering college football. I'm covering NFL. Don't look for me from the end of July to the end of January, beginning of January. So I wanted something that was a little bit more balanced. And I just knew that my communication skills and my messaging thought process would translate well to public relations, communications in the state government sector. So that was ultimately why I had the opportunity to go over to MEMA.
Man, what was the biggest thing you learned while you were there?
It's all about relationships. It's all about being flexible. State service is something that I think, service in general, is something that I think goes, man, flat out disregarded sometimes. To serve is something that I think people don't really understand the meaning of. Yes, we're getting paid, so it's not a volunteer job, but to serve, the things that I did at MEMA have an impact that is greater than just me and my family. The things that I did at MEMA affected my brother that I'm on the show with right now. It affected somebody that I don't even know, right? That's true service. When you're doing things to impact people you don't even know, you're serving. And so that was, it still is. I'm still in state government now. It's one of my favorite things to know things that I do, messages that I put together can impact people in the best of ways, man. And so what greater way than when I started at MEMA is putting out public safety messaging to a point where the things that I say on camera or the things that I put on social media can quite literally save your life if you're paying attention. So I took that seriously. I took that very seriously. I had to learn a lot of new things. The way that I wrote in television is totally different than the way I write now. I have to write in the AP style, Associated Press style of writing now. Whereas in television, it's very conversational. I wrote it out just like I would say it. And so that's very conversational. That's very, a lot of jargon, to be quite honest with you. I don't do that when I write publications, when I write messaging, even social media posts to a certain extent on my professional job in state government. So I had to learn a new way of writing, same way of thinking, but just how do you deliver that message?
So you really had to even become more versatile in
Yeah. And you just have to learn in state government. You have to deal with people from all walks of life. You do. I enjoy that. Some people don't. I understand that the world does not revolve around me. And for the most part, I'm going to be dealing with people that may not think like me, that may not look like me. But we're all supposed to be in it for a common cause, and that is the state of Mississippi. So that's the way I approach it every day. And that's what I take very seriously about my profession. And that's why I'm good at it. Because I mean what I say. I'm still putting in the work every single day. I'm still putting in the work to make sure that my role and responsibilities are fulfilled as a communications director.
Now, when you initially left Mississippi Emergency Management Agency,
Yeah.
it was because you had scored a job in your dream city, the city you had been wanting to live in long as I know you, best of my knowledge, Dallas, Texas,
Yeah.
home of the Dallas Cowboys, and anybody that knows that's part of your story. This is. I don't think I know anybody that's more diehard than you when it comes to those Cowboys.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately. Hey man. Just
you ended up not going though because you
yeah.
got blindsided with a equally lucrative job opportunity right here at home in Mississippi.
Yeah.
So how did it feel to come from the struggle that you came from and the tragedy that you came from with your mother's passing and
Yeah.
your grandmother's passing? How did it feel to go from that to be at that particular point and be in such high demand that you got people in a whole nother state and one of the greatest cities in our country want you, and you got folks in your home state want you? How did it feel to be in such high demand?
It was emotional, man. I'll be honest with you. I cried a couple of times
Right.
because it's like I just said, I have never been one to just want to move that far away from my family, not just my family, my wife's family too. She's an only child. So we're talking about her husband asking her to pick up and just leave her mom and her dad, her grandmother, and that had happened, man. Like I literally accepted a job in Dallas and I was asked to serve back here in Mississippi with the Attorney General's office. I take service very seriously. And so it's one of those things where I had to call the gentleman who offered me the job.
Mm.
And I felt bad as a man because I gave him my word. I gave him my word that I would be there to be a part of his team and to better his team, because I feel like any situation I step into is going to get better. That's what I think of myself. All right. You can call it conceited. I'm just telling you, you know what you're getting when you get with me. All right. You're gonna elevate, because if you give me an opportunity, I'm not gonna let you down. I'm not going to have you out here looking bad. So, you know, that was a tough conversation for me to have with one Mr. Tony Hartzell, who I still talk to this day. He's a good man. He understood. He was disappointed that I wasn't coming. But when I told him why, he said, well, yeah, I get it. I get it. It was tough though, man. I've always, I've always wanted to move to Dallas, Texas. That's always been a part of my plan. But sometimes your plans get altered. And in this case, I always say, man, the way stuff plays out, you need to look back on it and see why it played out that way. And I think in this case, I think in this case, I don't know if I would have thrived in 2020 in Dallas, man. It's a lot of strange stuff going on out there in Dallas. And I ain't just talking about just the Cowboys. I don't know if my wife and I would have liked the idea of just being isolated without any family around us with a 2-year-old in 2020, right? The pandemic is so crazy, man. We're all isolated. I haven't seen my brother in person in God knows how long, right? But I know he's there. If I need to get to him, I know he's there. He's within a drive away. That didn't feel right. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, man, where I truly feel like me now in the situation I'm in is the best move for right now. I'm with a great team right now at Mississippi Veterans Affairs. I spent 6 months at the Attorney General's office, and it was cool to be at one of the highest places in government. And I'm thriving. I'm thriving because I told my new boss the same thing that I've told all my bosses before. If you give me an opportunity, I won't let you down.
So with that said, what would you say to any young person, particularly young Black people, who may want to serve in government? Because I'm telling you right now, when they look at TV and they see what's going on, a lot of them would shy away from it,
Yeah.
because they more than ever, and I think this really started with our generation, that you value authenticity,
Right.
and you value realness.
Right.
Our generation on down, I was talking about keeping it real, keeping it real, keeping it real.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to a youngin who may want to serve the people?
Yeah.
but they feel like serving the people won't allow them to be themselves,
Sure.
or that they wouldn't be able to sufficiently serve the people. What would you say to them?
Here's what I'd say. I understand why people may be skeptical about working in certain avenues, certain areas, right? I get that. Um, if our world is going to change, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take people voicing their opinions and marching, but it's also going to take people being in a room too. And so you have to be available in all walks. My personal opinion, you have to be available in all walks. And that doesn't make you disingenuous. It doesn't take away from your authenticity. Who you are should translate beyond, words. I use words every day, but you should know where I stand regardless of where I am. Who I am on this show is the same person I'm going to be at work. I'm a fun loving guy, right? I will help anybody. I work hard, but you know where I stand on issues, because if you don't know, just ask me. I'll tell you. You know what I mean? So you can go in and serve and not quote unquote lose yourself. Be yourself. That's the most important part. You have to be yourself. You have to be that individual. Individuals make change. Yes, it takes a large number of individuals to make change, but individuals make change. It starts with the individual. And then from there, man, you can do some things. You can do some things. I've seen it, you've seen it, it continues to happen. But you got to be willing to step up and go in and be the individual. Okay. Um, yeah, you may go into certain places, certain positions, occupations, companies, businesses, and you may be the only person that looks like you. Okay. That's fine. That's reality. All right. If not you, then who? You have to be able to do that because somebody is watching. Somebody is watching. I would rather be that guy than not be that guy any day of the week. All right. It's just the way I'm built. I always want to be the one. I don't mind a little bit of pressure because at the end of the day, I believe in myself that if I don't have it figured out now, I'll work hard enough to figure it out. And I just believe I come from good stock, from a good support system. And that has given me the confidence to say, shoot your shot. Let's see what happens.
Now, I can't finish this without talking to you about the people that matter to you most.
Yeah.
In particular, your bride, your
Yeah.
wife. And the way y'all hooked up is a true modern day social media story. It's one of those
Yeah.
ways that folks dream about, that you meet somebody or
Yeah.
y'all reconnect through the internet or something like that, and it turns
Yeah.
into love and marriage. So can you kind of talk about how y'all got together?
This is okay. See, this is like one of the things that makes me feel like I'm not as old because I feel like, hey, man, this is where I can go back and connect with like the younger generation. But then the
This
younger
is how
generation,
they're doing. This how they doing it.
but
Exclusively, how they doing it.
listen, they're gonna tell me though, wait a minute, y'all connected on Facebook. Who uses Facebook? You see what I'm saying? So like, as much confidence I feel about saying this, I'm still a little nervous because I feel
Right.
like the younger generation gonna be like, man, this old guy out here talking about
They
finding his
on there,
on
they
Facebook.
they on there too. I see them. Well,
But it is that's the truth. That's the truth. My wife and I we met a long time ago at a summer camp when I was 12 years old when I first moved to Jackson. And
mhm.
she looked me up on Facebook when I was in college, my senior year of college, and she was a freshman at Jackson State University. Looked me up. We had one or two conversations before I got a chance to meet her again, like in person. And we have literally been rolling ever since. Ever since.
So that's
15
one.
years strong, man. 15, yeah, 15 years strong. Married 9 years now. So from social media to now. Now, it would have happened outside of social media. It just made it easier. That's the beauty of our technology and the world that we're in now. That's the good part of social media, as I like to say. There's a lot of negative, but that's the really, really good part of social media. Um, You know, my wife. My wife is, I like to think, in a lot of ways, the exact opposite of me, and it's probably the best because I talk too much. Um, I can be a bit much from time to time. I'm stubborn. I can be brash when I feel like, somebody is underestimating me or being disrespectful. I can kind of be that guy. My wife is laid back. My wife is thoughtful. Um, my wife is very reserved with other folks. With me, she lets me have it. She lets me have it. Okay. If you're ever worried about me getting the big head, don't worry about it. My wife keeps me humble. She keeps me grounded.
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
But nah, man, she is truly, truly, truly um, my partner. We are 50-50 in this thing. And I say that because um, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. And to some people, that may be like, oh, your wife doesn't work. No. Yes, she stays at home 24 hours a day with a 2-year-old. I don't even know what kind of salary that is, but I can promise you it's not enough that I can pay. It's not enough that I can pay. My wife is the one that keeps this thing going in this house. Without my wife, me and my son around here not knowing if we coming or going. Point blank, period, man. So I'm thankful for her. She's the perfect fit for me. And at the end of the day, we're like friends. And you know how it is. You've been married to your wife and known your wife way longer than I've known mine. So we're friends. Like there's some days we sit around and do nothing, and that's a productive day. We laugh about the most random stuff. It's the best. It's the best, man, to know you're in a relationship with someone that like there's no fear, right? And at the end of the day, y'all are both in it for the same reasons, and that's just to see each other elevate and to watch this family grow, to go from where it's been to take it to the next level. It's awesome.
Now, how many years you say y'all got in the game?
Been married 9, but like I said, you got to count the 15 from when we were dating. I think that's only fair to her that she's been putting up with me that long. So
Right,
you
right,
got
right.
you got to give her the 15 at this point.
So, what would you say to these other brothers out here, particularly married brothers, but
Hmm?
also brothers that are dating and they serious about who they're with? What would you say to them? Or what kind of advice would you give them to try to help them keep their thing together? Because I'm gonna tell you, America, this brother right here helps me keep my thing together, and you need that.
Yeah, you
You
do.
need that. I'm not ashamed of saying that. If you don't have somebody in your life to help
Yep.
you keep your thing together, your thing probably not gonna stay together.
It's not.
So, what would you say to folks out here, particularly brothers,
Mhm.
uh, trying to keep their thing together?
Be honest.
Mm,
Be honest.
say
Yeah.
that.
Communicate. Communication. Like I said, my wife is more reserved than I, but if she has something that she wants to say, she's gonna say it. So you have to communicate, man. As much as you may want to like bottle stuff in because you don't want to offend the other person or hurt the other person's feelings,
Mhm.
if you're a team and you love each other, then you know it's coming from the right place. It's not to belittle, it's to grow. You know what I mean? Um, Support one another. Even if you can't see the end result, trust the other person. That
Mhm.
like they have it. They have it, and they're not going to put you in a predicament. You know what I mean? Um, Love, laugh, man. Be willing to cry together. You know what I'm saying? I share all the emotions with my wife, all of them. Laugh, cry, I'm angry, I'm overjoyed, all of that. Share it. Share it. This is a true team in every sense of the word. It doesn't make any sense to me if I'm feeling great, but my wife is not, and I go back and say, well, hey, I'm feeling great, so it doesn't matter. No, 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 no. You got to be able to handle that. Also understand that it's not perfect. Every day is not going to be yay. It's not. If you know that you're crazy, then your wife puts up with that crazy, and vice versa. If a woman is out there listening and you know you're crazy, then your husband puts up with that crazy, and you put up with his crazy. So that's part of it too. None of us are perfect. We have bad days. The thing that I continually remind myself, and I've gotten so much better as I've gotten older, leave the outside world where it is when you're talking about being with your significant other. All the stresses of work, all the stresses of life, leave it at the doorstep, because the way I treat it now, my wife does. Yeah, I can talk about work with her. She may ask me how was work. I may tell her about something crazy that's happened at work, but I'm not going to keep beating that. And more importantly, letting that lead into our relationship, right? Can't be that. Can't be that, man. This life is hard. You're going to go through a lot of stuff, but if you're doing it right, you're going to go through it together. You got to stick together. And to my brother's point, you have to have solid people around you to check you when you are out of pocket or out of line. My brother has done it for me. I've done it for him. Our other brothers, Joe and TJ, we've done it for each other. We have a tight-knit circle of guys who are married men who work hard and care about their wives and would die for them, and their kids would die for them. So when you know that you have that caliber of friends around you, a family around you, it's okay for you to let them say, hey, man, you wrong on this one, or calm down, relax. Let me give you another perspective. You don't have to feel offended in that moment, because you know, again, your brothers are coming to you in the right spirit and in the right way. At the end of the day, that's just them wanting to see you elevate. All of that, man, all of that, and then just hang on tight, because things change. My marriage now is totally different than when I first got married. My wife and I could get up and go wherever we wanted to, whenever we wanted to, when we first got married, and didn't need to plan anything, right? You want to go here, get in and go. Let's go spend a weekend in Dallas. Cool, let's go. We'll figure out what hotel we're going to stay in when we get there. Now, it's a bit different. It's definitely different because of 2020, but even before that, who's keeping the kid? You got arrangements. Is the kid going with us? Does it have a refrigerator for his milk? Blah, 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 blah. And all of that can stress you out to the point where you don't even want to do it anymore. Remember, your family is your most important thing. I love those two so much, man. I give them, hopefully they feel like I give them everything they need. And I'm hoping, even though I don't even know it, I'm hoping I can get them everything that they want to.
Well, you mentioned that little joker, so let's talk about my boy.
Yeah.
My godson.
Yeah.
Tank in his name, Mr. Landry Coleman.
Yeah.
Seriously though, I know with the tragedy that you experienced and losing parents, I know how much being a parent means to you.
Absolutely.
Can you put into words that feeling when that little fella came into this world?
It's the
and how y'all relationship, your bond is just grown since.
When I saw Landry for the first time, I don't know, man. It was like, I've heard people say like everything changes, but in that moment, everything changed. It really did. And I knew at that moment, I've already toned myself down because I'm married, right? I understand it's not just about me, but in that moment, it became like, man, it's even less about me, and everything that I do now is to make sure that Brandy and Landry succeed in life. And with my wife is an adult. I'm always going to take care of her, but I also know my wife has tools to make it without me. You know what I'm saying? Like she can stand on her own 2 feet. She's just a partner in my life, but she can stand on her own 2 feet. My kid has nothing. I am it. Right. So every day, because we never know when our last is, every day I'm making sure that I have stuff in line for my son, because he means that much to me. There are some days when I look at this kid and I'm just like, what is wrong with this dude? Right. He's jumping off of stuff, airborne, and I can't catch him in time, or he is screaming at the top of his lungs. And I'm looking at his mom, and his mom is like, you better get him before I get him. And then sometimes I'm looking back at her like, nope, I don't, you better get him. But then there's sometimes, man, he will just come and just give me a hug, or he'll just come and sit with me, or he'll just come and say, Daddy, come here. And he'll want to show me something or a new word that he's learned. And it just blows my mind every time. I'm not saying my kid is a genius by any means, but he blows my mind. I'm telling you. And I look at him, and for people, you know, I made I tell you what I'll do. You know, we may put a little picture up of my wife and my kid, right? If you look at him, his skin tone is totally different than mine and my wife's. Really, he's a little bit lighter, and I say that to say I look at him sometimes and he's got hazel eyes, and it reminds me of going back to the beginning. My uncle has hazel eyes. My grandfather has hazel eyes. My mother is Landry skin tone. I forget that because it's been so long since I've seen her that I don't even remember her skin tone until I see the 5 or 6 pictures that, you know, we have of her. I look at a picture of him and then I put it up next to a picture of her and they look alike, dude. It's the craziest thing. They look alike. So I see him and it comes full circle because like it's a great reminder. What a great reminder, dude, to see my kid and say, your mom is still around, because the angels have marked him. I really believe that. They've marked him to say, you will be a good symbol for your father to remember your mother. It's crazy. It's uncanny. So man, it's cool. It's fun. It's scary sometimes too, as you well know, and as dads out there, real dads know, in this world, man, there's so much going on. And me as a black man, just to be quite honest with you, having a black son, it's scary. But in the Coleman household, we don't live in fear. We just don't. We are aware, but we don't live in fear. We live in reality. And the reality is this: as I've told y'all throughout this entire interview, you got to get it done regardless. Everybody has a story. Everybody has an obstacle. Obstacles, put it with an S. We all have circumstances. But you can either linger around and let your circumstances hold you down and not let you achieve your dreams and goals of bettering your life, or you can just attack and say, I'm going to do it anyway. That's what I'm saying. I come from Port Gibson, Mississippi. We talked about the entire thing, all these hardships, all of these shortcomings, but there's always been a way. There's always been something there to help me push along. And with this kid now, I got all the inspiration I need to take it to the next level, because it's for him. It's for his mom to make sure that they strive, man. Good enough is not good enough for me. I don't want it to be just they're okay. I want them to thrive. I think my mother would have done that for me if she was still here, right? My uncle did that for me. He sacrificed everything to make sure that I can do this. So it's my turn to make sure that they don't have to want or need for anything, man. So that's where I'm at with it now. I'm so thankful for it, and I'm blessed to have this kid. My wife loves him. She wanted the boy. She got it. Some days I'm like, I remind her, you got it. This is what you wanted. You got it. But their relationship makes me so happy. It's a true mother-son bond. And sometimes I'm just on the outside looking in. That's cool too, man. I'm blessed. I'm blessed beyond measure. And I thank God for both of them.
Well, lastly, man, what do you hope that people will learn from your story?
We use the term GOATs a lot in sports. We look to people that we see on television and we hear their story. We read their biographies, right? I do too. I'm reading the Alexander Hamilton biography right now. I've read biographies on Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sugar Ray Leonard, Barack Obama, Michelle, you name it, right? But at the end of the day, believe it or not, they were just regular people too. You know, I think sometimes we look to these people and we forget that they had to work and get to that point. More importantly, there are GOATs around you every day. I've named GOATs throughout this entire interview, GOATs that may not be on television and may not have Twitter accounts that you may be aware of and may not have written biographies, but they're GOATs. They're all around you. I'm talking to one on this interview right now. My favorite rapper is right here. My favorite educator is right here. You know what I'm saying? GOATs around you all the time. Instead of you looking to those GOATs, and that's cool too. Look to them because those are great men and women, great minds. Look to the GOATs around you, man, and show your appreciation, but learn from them. And then you be a GOAT too. Everything that you need is there. It may feel like it's not there financially. It may feel like it's there, not socially. I am not by any means downplaying the struggles that people have and the realities that people have. I'm not. What I'm telling you is don't let that stop you from trying anyway. You can never know if you don't try. And I know that sounds cliche, but you can never know. If I just decided to give up because I didn't have a mom and my grandmother passed away and my life wasn't the best growing up and I didn't understand relationships and all of this stuff, then I don't know if I have a great wife that gives, that brings a great kid into the world for me. I don't know if I have these relationships, man, where I've been to all these different places and met all these different people and done these cool things. You got to put the work in. Enjoy the journey, the good, bad, and indifferent, because I'm telling you, you too will be able to look back on it. My brother will tell you, he and I, we talk about our great days and our bad days, and they all mix, but it's what makes us. It's what drives us. It's why we're going to succeed. It's why we succeed now, and we will continue to succeed because we understand what that looks like, the grind. Respect it, enjoy it, and then when you get there, look back, be thankful for it, and then keep going. That's it.
Well, man, I appreciate you for coming on,
Yes, sir.
for doing this, for also doing your weekly segment on Put It On Some.
Yeah.
Helping me with this growing business. You know what I'm saying? Uh, for being you though. You know what I'm saying? For being my homie, being anybody that knows me know I don't call you my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you do the same thing to the point where I've had people come to me and
Yeah.
uh, ask me why we don't look alike.
I know.
We say we brothers so much, but man, I just appreciate you for being a real one. I've always been proud of you.
Yeah.
For now, I didn't know that you chose nursing at first. See,
Yeah.
I
Man.
always I didn't know that, but once you figured it out,
Yeah.
what you said you were gonna do, you did that.
Yeah.
And I always respected that and was proud of that. Uh, and will always be proud of that, and mostly proud of what you're doing now with your son, because I know what you came from and the struggle and the heartbreak, and life. That's the only thing in life that's guaranteed is heartbreak.
That's it. That's
That
it.
ain't the only thing that's guaranteed.
Yep.
You got to work for everything else. You got to work for your happiness,
Yep.
and you've done that. And so I just want you to know that I'm proud of you, and I appreciate you for sharing your story.
Indeed. Indeed, man. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, man. Um, people who know you, they know you. This is one of the best things. I really believe this. And you've done a lot, man. You've done a lot. But this right here, this is going to change some lives, man. I really believe that the more you put these out, the more people are going to say, you know what? He's right. They're real life heroes walking amongst us, and their stories need to be told. So I appreciate you, not just for this. I do appreciate you for being my brother, along with my other brothers and my other support systems, man, that just have helped me get to this point. Because as much as I do say I put in the work, I couldn't get here by myself. Y'all keep me grounded, but y'all also help me understand, man, that like you can keep going when I feel like I can't, because I'm human just like everybody else. Somebody, you most of the time, is always there to say, man, you got it. You got it. So thank you, man. Salute to you for putting this thing together, and salute to you for being a real one.
Appreciate it, man. You already know love.
Yes, sir. Love.
So, America, I hope you enjoyed my interview with my brother, Ray Coleman. As you can see, his story is fascinating. It's a story of tragedy, but it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of fighting back. And whether I was in that classroom, or if it's in my records, or if it's on my sports show, or if it's when I'm mentoring, I keep preaching to people that you can't control what people do, You can't control what happens in your life to some extent. My brother couldn't control what happened with it to his mother. He couldn't control what happened to his grandmother, but he controls how he responds to it. And you do too. And so I hope his story inspires you to respond as a fighter, to respond as a competitor. You kept hearing him talk about competing, competing, competing. He was competing in school, in athletics. He was competing in college. He was competing on the job. You were rising through the ranks. He's still competing to this day. And that's what you gotta do. Keep fighting. Don't give up. Don't quit. I appreciate y'all for listening. Make no matter what site you're watching this on currently, please make sure you like the video. Make sure you share it with as many people as possible because they need to hear positive stories. They definitely need to hear them right now. And make sure you follow me across all social media platforms. And remember, everybody got a story. So listen. One. Go.
Go. Subscribe to our daddy's YouTube channel. He's the best. Hit the like button, turn on the notifications.